Hello everyone, I'm Professor Esther Chan, Assistant Dean of Health Sciences Education from the Department of Pharmacology and Pharmacy at the University of Hong Kong. As part of the Scan 2030 initiative, we've devised a series of clips on health technology assessment. It is my pleasure to speak to you all on the use of real-world evidence in health technology assessment. And in this clip, I will speak to you on the concept of healthcare big data, real-world evidence, and how they can help with the HTA process. Healthcare big data refers to the abundant biological, clinical, environmental, and lifestyle information collected from large populations in relation to health. The notion of big here suggests not only the large volume and the high speed of data generation, but also the large diversity of data sources. Broadly speaking, healthcare big data encompasses a wide range of sources, including data derived from pharmaceutical studies, electronic medical records, public and private insurance records, genetic sequence data, physical measurements collected through medical devices, wearables, and smartphones. There are also diverse types of healthcare big databases around the world to facilitate better usage of the information. The Clinical Data Analysis and Reporting Systems, or CDAS, in Hong Kong contains electronic medical records, including attendance records, both inpatient and outpatients, A&E attendances, disease diagnosis, medication prescriptions, laboratory tests. The Health Improvement Network, or THIN, from the UK includes written prescriptions from the general practitioners, referrals to specialists, and lifestyle characteristics. The National Health Insurance Database in Taiwan provides registration files for contracted specialty services and medical facilities, as well as insurance claims data. And the Multinational Integrated Data Analysis System, or MIDAS, managed by IQVIA, has collected large pools of pharmaceutical sales data from around the world. The many diverse sources of healthcare big data unlocks the potential for researchers to produce real-world evidence about medical products, including the usage, potential benefits, and also risks. So where can real-world evidence be applied? Real-world evidence can be incorporated into the whole life cycle of drug development. In the preclinical phase, real-world evidence can provide epidemiological background, the natural history of disease, and patient characteristics, which is very important in the design of clinical trials. In the phase of clinical trials, real-world evidence can help researchers identify the meaningful endpoints and also provide evidence for estimating sample sizes, which may help improve the feasibility of patient recruitment, and it can also be used as materials for external controls within non-randomized single-arm trials where randomization may not be feasible or ethical. At the post-marketing phase, real-world evidence can help with pharmacovigilance monitoring, health economics evaluation, and also drug repurposing. Although randomized clinical trials have been considered the gold standard of clinical practice for many years, it is not without limitations. And limitations of randomized clinical trials can be summarized under PICO. Firstly, the traditional RCTs have small population sizes with strict inclusion criteria, so the conclusions may not be generalizable to the whole population. Second, there is a lack of diverse interventions. For example, the sequence of medications or drug dosing could be quite variable in the real-world clinical practice. However, it is quite restricted in RCTs. And in RCTs, there could be very limited number of comparators, and these might represent only a subset of treatment options available to healthcare providers. Some comparisons may not be considered feasible or ethical. For example, when the outcome is known to be harmful, the RCT may not be a feasible method. RCTs usually have fixed or relatively short follow-up periods, which may then have limitations in capturing rare outcomes that may require some time to develop. Real-world evidence, on the other hand, can have larger sample size with less stringent eligibility criteria, so therefore it represents the real-life patient cohort, and the findings are more generalizable to patients in the real world. Importantly, vulnerable patients such as elderly, pregnant women, children, and patient groups with different comorbidities may be better represented. Real-world evidence studies can investigate more flexible dosing and prescribing patterns, and multiple drug comparators can be concurrently explored. Real-world evidence can explore important outcomes that require long-term follow-up. We know that health technology assessment is a systematic and multidisciplinary evaluation of properties and effects of new health technologies that looks at the clinical effectiveness, safety, and costs of the product, for example, a new drug. The typical HTA uses randomized clinical trial results in its assessment and evaluation. However, more and more HTA reports integrate real-world evidence studies, and there's been more and more over the years, and certainly in the past decade, there's been evidence of this increase. So in 2011, 6% of real-world evidence studies were utilized in these HTA assessments, and in 2021, 39% of real-world evidence studies were reported to be used in its evaluation. And there are various reasons for this. First, real-world evidence can only provide supplementary documentation that supports data obtained from RCTs, which help to address the gaps or uncertainties in the evidence base. It also allows for the evaluation of a medicine's value in daily clinical practice, and this provides insight into its performance outside predefined treatment situations within the very stringent clinical trials. And lastly, in situations where conducting RCT may be considered ethically challenging, so for example, if the disease could be fatal if the control group is not treated, in these cases, the real-world evidence offers an opportunity to gather really important evidence. Particularly, some orphan drugs or complex therapies that target certain genes or cells are inherently difficult to conduct using large-scale RCTs, and often these may require long-term follow-up. And in urgent situations like during the COVID-19 pandemic, patients' access to new health technologies require an expedited approval process before the conventional clinical trial data is available. So in these situations, real-world evidence has been applied in the health technology assessment process to facilitate the assessment and decision-making. Health technology assessment authorities around the world have either established or are moving towards frameworks for implementing real-world evidence in decision-making processes of novel drugs and technologies. For example, in 2018, the FDA in the US issued guidance on the use of real-world evidence in regulatory decision-making, while the American Institute of Clinical and Economical Review, the ICER, also developed a framework for integrating real-world evidence into coverage evaluations. The Canadian Agency for Drugs and Technologies in Health has partnered with the national regulatory body to publish the guidance for reporting real-world evidence in 2022. In Europe, Data Analysis and Real-World Interrogation Network was launched in 2022 as a standardized real-world data database in the EU to support health technology assessment decisions. NICE in the UK released its real-world evidence framework in 2022 to guide future submissions for review. In China, the National Medical Products Administration issued the guiding principles for real-world evidence to support drug development and review in 2020, along with a series of guidelines to clarify the technical requirements. Hainan Boao Lecheng pilot zone has become the first region in China that has granted fast approval to innovative medical products and devices. approved abroad using real-world evidence. Now and in the future, with even more international collaborations and structured regulations, I believe that better managed healthcare big data can generate more and more high-quality real-world evidence. And this real-world evidence will continue to guide HTA agencies to efficiently allocate health resources and make best-informed reimbursement decisions.